Zara hummed a low, soothing tune as she crushed fragrant herbs in her mortar and pestle. The desert sun warmed her back, and the scent of sage and chamomile filled the air. She knew the exact pressure needed to release the healing oils, a skill learned from years of watching her grandmother, the village healer. Her fingers, stained green and brown from the plants, moved with practiced ease. She mixed the crushed herbs with beeswax and carefully poured the balm into small clay jars. These would soothe burns and ease the aches of the village elders. Zara lived a simple life, her days filled with tending her small herb garden and learning the ancient remedies passed down through generations. She knew the desert like the back of her hand, which plants bloomed under the harsh sun and which held the secrets of healing within their leaves and roots. But Zara carried a secret, a mark on her forehead shaped like a silver star that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. This celestial birthmark, her grandmother had said, was a gift from the stars, a sign of powerful healing abilities. Yet, in their small, superstitious village, it was seen as a curse, a mark of ill omen. So Zara hid it. She covered her face with a shapeless, soot-stained cloth, its dull color a stark contrast to the vibrant hues of her desert home. The cloth shielded her from the fearful glances and whispers that followed her like shadows. It was a heavy burden, both physically and emotionally, but it was a necessary one. She longed to walk freely, to let the sun kiss her skin without fear, but the memory of the frightened faces and harsh words kept the cloth firmly in place. One day, while gathering desert lilies in a hidden canyon, Zara heard the sound of approaching horses. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She quickly crouched behind a large rock, hoping to remain unseen. But it was too late. Rough hands grabbed her, pulling her from her hiding place. She struggled, but their grip was too strong. They ripped the cloth from her face, and the midday sun glinted off the silver star on her forehead. A gruff voice laughed, a cruel mocking sound that echoed in the canyon. "Look what we found, the cursed girl." Zara recognized the voice. It was Abdul, the notorious slave trader known for his greed and cruelty. He held her roughly, his eyes gleaming with avarice. He saw not the healer, the girl who tended the sick and soothed the suffering, but a commodity, something to be bought and sold. He tied her hands, ignoring her pleas, and threw her onto the back of a horse. As the group rode away, Zara looked back at her peaceful canyon, her heart heavy with dread. The desert, once her sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The wind whipped around her, carrying the scent of dust and fear. She knew, with a chilling certainty, that her life was about to change forever. Sheikh stood on a rocky outcrop, his gaze sweeping across the vast desert landscape. The wind whipped his dark robes around him, carrying the scent of sand and distant rain. He was a man of few words, but his presence commanded respect. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, held a deep understanding of the harsh realities of desert life. He was the leader of his tribe, a wise and just ruler, known for his prophetic dreams. For weeks, a recurring dream had troubled his sleep. He saw a woman, her face obscured by shadow, but on her forehead shone a star, silver and radiant, like the first star of dusk. The dream told of a woman who would unite the warring tribes, a woman marked by the star of dusk. He knew this woman held the key to peace and prosperity for his people. News of a slave auction at the desert crossroads reached Tarek's encampment. He decided to attend, a flicker of hope in his heart that he might find the woman from his dream. The auction was a chaotic scene, a swirl of dust and noise. Tents flapped in the wind, and the rhythmic beat of drums filled the air. Merchants hawked their wares, and the cries of the enslaved echoed through the marketplace. Tarek watched impassively, his face betraying no emotion. Abdul, the auctioneer, a man with a greasy smile and shifty eyes, paraded Zara before the crowd. He held her roughly by the arm, the soot-stained cloth still covering her face. "Here we have a..." Unique offering, Abdul announced, his voice dripping with false enthusiasm. He chuckled, a cruel sound that grated on Tariq's ears. A bit unconventional in her beauty, shall we say, but a bargain nonetheless. He pulled the cloth back just enough to reveal a portion of Zara's face, carefully avoiding the area of her forehead. The crowd murmured, some recoiling in disgust. Abdul continued his cruel charade, pointing to the exposed skin. See? Not much to look at, is she? But perhaps someone will take a chance on this ugly bride. Tariq watched silently, a growing unease in his gut. Something about the way Abdul was hiding Zara's face intrigued him. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. I wish to see her face. Abdul hesitated, his smile faltering. But my lord, as you can see, she is not pleasing to the eye. Surely you can find a more suitable bride among my other offerings. Tariq's gaze hardened. I said, I wish to see her face. Abdul, sensing the steel in Tariq's voice, reluctantly reached for the cloth. He pulled it back slowly, his hand trembling slightly. As the last vestiges of the cloth fell away, the setting sun caught the silver star on Zara's forehead. It shimmered, a beacon of light in the fading light. Tariq's breath caught in his throat. He felt a tremor run through him, a sense of awe and recognition. This was the woman from his dreams, the woman marked by the Star of Dusk. Tariq gently helped Zara onto his own horse, his hand lingering for a moment on her arm. He dismissed Abdul with a curt nod, ignoring the auctioneer's protests and muttered curses. He led Zara away from the noise and chaos of the auction, towards his encampment nestled among the dunes. The ride was quiet, broken only by the soft thud of hooves on the sand. Zara, still shaken from the ordeal, kept her gaze fixed on the horizon. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, a stark contrast to the turmoil in her heart. Tariq's encampment was a haven of calm. The tents, woven from sturdy goat hair, stood in an orderly circle around a crackling fire. The air smelled of wood smoke and roasted meat. Tariq helped Zara dismount, his touch gentle and reassuring. He led her to a tent, set apart from the others, its entrance draped with colorful woven rugs. "This will be your tent," he said, his voice soft. "Rest here. You are safe now." Zara entered the tent, her eyes wide with wonder. It was simple but comfortable, with soft cushions scattered on the floor and a low table laden with dates and figs. She sank onto a cushion, feeling a wave of exhaustion wash over her. Tariq watched her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "I will have food brought to you," he said. "Then you must rest." He returned a short while later with a tray laden with steaming couscous and roasted lamb. He placed it on the table and sat across from her, his gaze steady but kind. Zara hesitantly reached for the food, her stomach rumbling with hunger. She ate slowly, savoring the flavors, a sense of peace slowly settling over her. As they ate, they spoke, their conversation halting at first, then flowing more easily. Zara told Tariq about her life in the village, her love of healing, and the fear and prejudice she had faced because of her birthmark. Tariq listened intently, his eyes filled with compassion. He spoke of his own responsibilities as a leader, his desire for peace among the tribes, and the prophetic dream that had led him to her. "The star on your forehead," he said, his voice low. "It is not a curse, Zara. It is a sign of hope, a symbol of unity." Zara looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. No one had ever spoken of her birthmark with such reverence. She felt a flicker of hope in her heart, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, her life was about to take a turn for the better. A shy smile touched her lips, and Tariq's heart skipped a beat. He found himself captivated by her gentle spirit, her resilience, and the quiet strength that shone through her eyes. He realized that the woman from his dream was not just a symbol of unity, but a woman he was beginning to admire, a woman he might even care for. As the firelight flickered, casting dancing shadows on the tent walls, stolen glances and shy smiles passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the growing bond between the Sheikh and the woman with the star of dusk. A young boy, no older than 7, lay feverish in his mother's arms. His skin was flushed and his breathing was shallow. He whimpered softly, his small body racked with chills. The tribe's elder, a wizened woman named Fatima, had tried all her remedies, but the boy's condition remained unchanged. A worried murmur spread through the encampment. Zara, watching from a distance, felt a pang of sympathy for the suffering child. Remembering her grandmother's teachings, Zara approached Fatima. "Forgive me, honored elder," she said respectfully, "but I believe I may be able to help." Fatima, her face etched with worry, looked at Zara skeptically. "You?" she asked, her voice sharp. "What can you possibly do that I have not already tried?" Zara explained her knowledge of herbs and their healing properties. She spoke of a specific plant, feverfew, that grew in the nearby canyons, known for its ability to reduce fever and ease pain. Fatima, though still hesitant, agreed to let Zara try. Zara quickly gathered the necessary herbs, her movements swift and sure. She crushed the leaves and mixed them with cool water, creating a soothing poultice. She gently applied it to the boy's forehead, her touch light and reassuring. Within minutes, the boy's fever began to subside, his breathing becoming more regular. He sighed softly and drifted into a peaceful sleep. The boy's mother wept with relief, her gratitude evident in her eyes. Fatima, her skepticism replaced by awe, embraced Zara. "You have a true gift, child," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "A gift from the stars." News of Zara's healing spread quickly through the encampment. The tribespeople, who had once viewed her with fear and suspicion, now looked at her with respect and admiration. Tarek, observing from afar, felt his admiration for Zara deepen. He saw not just a healer, but a woman of compassion and strength, a woman who used her gift to help others. Later that evening, Tarek sought out Zara. He found her sitting by the fire, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. He sat beside her, a comfortable silence settling between them. They spoke of their pasts, their voices soft in the twilight. Zara told Tarek about her family, her grandmother, who had taught her the ways of healing, and the tragic circumstances that had led to her capture. Her voice choked with emotion as she spoke of the loss and the fear she had endured. Tarek listened patiently, his heart aching for her pain. He shared his own story, his responsibilities as a leader, the burden of leadership, and the loneliness that often accompanied it. He spoke of his dream, the star of dusk that had guided him to her, and the hope he felt for the future of his tribe. As they shared their stories, a sense of vulnerability and understanding flowed between them. They realized that despite their different backgrounds, they shared a common ground, a deep sense of compassion, and a desire to bring peace and healing to their people. The firelight danced in their eyes, reflecting the growing connection between the Sheikh and the woman with the star of dusk. The days that followed were a blur of quiet conversations and shared smiles. Tarek and Zara found themselves drawn to each other, seeking solace in each other's company. They would often meet by the oasis, the only patch of green in the vast expanse of desert. The gentle murmur of the water and the rustling of the palm leaves created a peaceful backdrop for their whispered conversations. One afternoon, as they sat by the oasis, Tarek spoke of the prophecy, the dream that had led him to her. He described the star of dusk, the symbol of unity that was said to bring peace to the warring tribes. "The elders believe you are the one," he said, his voice low, "the one who will unite our people." Zara listened quietly, her heart filled with a mixture of hope and fear. The prophecy spoke of unity and peace, but it also spoke of responsibility, a burden she wasn't sure she was ready to bear. "What if I am not the one?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What if I fail?" Tarek reached for her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "You will not fail," he said, his gaze steady. "I have faith in you, Zara. I believe in the prophecy, and I believe in you." Zara looked at him, her eyes searching his. "But what if they only see me as a symbol?" she asked, her voice laced with anxiety. "What if they do not see me for me?" Tarek's expression softened. He understood her fear, her desire to be loved and accepted for who she was, not just for the mark on her forehead. "They will see you, Zara," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "They will see your kindness, your strength, your healing touch. And he paused, his gaze holding hers. "I see you, Zara. I see the woman beneath the star, the woman I am coming to." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "The woman I am coming to care for," he finished, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara's heart fluttered at his words. She had longed to hear such words, to be seen and appreciated for who she truly was. A shy smile touched her lips, and a warmth spread through her chest. "And you, Tarek," she said softly, "I'm coming to care for you too." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the gentle lapping of the water against the oasis's edge. The setting sun cast long shadows across the sand, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the desert, they felt a sense of connection, a bond that transcended prophecy and duty. They were not just a sheikh and a woman with a star on her forehead. They were two people drawn together by a shared sense of purpose and a growing affection for one another. They were Tarek and Zara, and in that quiet oasis under the vast desert sky, they found solace and hope in each other's company. The weight of the prophecy still hung over them, but in that moment, it felt less like a burden and more like a shared destiny, a path they would walk together hand in hand. Whispers like desert winds began to swirl through Tarek's encampment. Dark rumors like poisonous weeds took root in the hearts of the tribespeople. Abdul, the slighted auctioneer, had not forgotten the humiliation of losing Zara, the ugly bride who had turned out to be the prophesied woman. Fueled by greed and resentment, he began to sow seeds of doubt and fear among the tribes. "She is cursed," he whispered to anyone who would listen. "Her star is not a blessing, but a mark of death. She brings misfortune wherever she goes." He spun tales of villages struck by drought, of flocks decimated by disease, all coinciding with Zara's presence. He painted her as a harbinger of doom, a bringer of ill fortune. The superstitious tribespeople, already wary of Zara's unusual birthmark, were easily swayed by Abdul's lies. Fear, like a contagious disease, spread through the encampment. The tribal council, a group of elders responsible for the tribe's welfare, grew increasingly concerned. They had initially been awed by Zara's healing abilities and the fulfillment of the prophecy, but Abdul's persistent rumor-mongering began to chip away at their confidence. They feared the consequences of accepting a woman marked by what some now believed to be a curse. "We must consider the well-being of our tribe," Elder Omar, a stern-faced man with a long white beard, declared. "We cannot ignore these rumors. What if they are true?" "There is another option," Elder Hassan, a shrewd and calculating man, suggested. "Princess Amara of the rival tribe has expressed interest in an alliance. A marriage between her and Sheikh Tarek would secure peace and prosperity for our people. It is a far safer choice than this unknown woman with her questionable mark." The council agreed, their fear outweighing their initial hope. They approached Tarek, urging him to consider the princess's proposal. They spoke of political advantages, of strengthened alliances, of a secure future for the tribe. They painted a vivid picture of prosperity and stability, a stark contrast to the uncertainty and fear surrounding Zara. Tariq listened patiently, his face betraying no emotion. He understood the council's concerns, their desire to protect the tribe, but his heart belonged to Zara. He had seen her kindness, her strength, her unwavering compassion. He believed in the prophecy, and he believed in her. He was torn between his duty to his tribe and the growing love he felt for the woman with the star of dusk. The council's words echoed in his ears, their arguments logical and persuasive. But in his heart, another voice whispered, a voice that spoke of love, of hope, and of a destiny intertwined with the woman who had captured his heart. The weight of his decision, heavy and burdensome, settled upon his shoulders. He knew that his choice would determine not only his own future, but the future of his tribe. Tariq paced restlessly in his tent, the council's words echoing in his mind. Marry Princess Amara, secure the tribe's future, choose the safe path. But what about Zara? What about the prophecy, the star of dusk, the woman who had brought healing and hope to his people? He ran a hand through his hair, his heart heavy with the burden of his decision. He looked at the small, carved wooden bird Zara had gifted him, a symbol of her connection to nature. He felt a pang of longing, a yearning for the peace he found in her presence. He couldn't imagine a life without her, a future where duty dictated his heart. Outside, the wind howled, mirroring the turmoil within him. He felt trapped, caught between the demands of his tribe and the desires of his heart. He knew the council meant well, that they only wanted what was best for their people. But he couldn't shake the feeling that they were wrong, that they were blinded by fear and swayed by Abdul's malicious lies. Zara, gathering herbs near the council tent, overheard the elders' heated discussion. Their voices, though hushed, carried on the wind. She heard them speak of Princess Amara, of political alliances, of a marriage that would secure the tribe's future. She heard them question her worth, her value, her very presence in the tribe. Her heart sank, a cold dread spreading through her veins. They saw her as a threat, a burden, a source of misfortune. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her vision. She had come to this tribe seeking refuge, hoping to find acceptance and belonging. But it seemed that she was destined to bring only turmoil and strife. She stumbled back to her tent, her legs weak, her heart heavy. She sank onto the cushions, the carved wooden bird clutched tightly in her hand. Tariq's words of love and acceptance echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the council's harsh pronouncements. She couldn't bear to see him torn, to watch him struggle with the weight of their disapproval. Perhaps it would be best if she left. If she disappeared back into the vastness of the desert, she would become a whisper on the wind, a memory in his heart. It would be painful, but it would be better than watching him suffer, better than being the cause of his tribe's unrest. She looked around the tent, her gaze lingering on the small gifts Tariq had given her, a smooth, polished stone from the nearby mountains, a brightly colored scarf woven by the tribe's women, a small clay pot filled with her favorite herbs. Each gift represented a moment of shared connection, a memory of their growing bond. The thought of leaving them behind, of leaving him behind, brought a fresh wave of tears to her eyes. But she knew, deep in her heart, that it was the right thing to do. The only way to protect him from the storm she seemed to bring wherever she went. The star on her forehead, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a brand, a mark of misfortune. She closed her eyes, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. The decision was made. She would leave before dawn, disappearing into the desert like a whisper on the wind. Tariq stood before the tribal council, his gaze unwavering. The elders, their faces etched with concern, sat in a semicircle around a crackling fire. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the crackling of the flames. "I have heard your concerns," Tarek began, his voice calm but firm. "I understand your fear, your desire to protect our tribe, but I cannot ignore the prophecy, the dream that led me to Zara." He spoke of the Star of Dusk, the symbol of unity that had appeared in his dreams. He described Zara's healing, touch, her compassion, her unwavering strength. He told them of the peace he felt in her presence, the hope he saw in her eyes. "She is not a curse," he declared, his voice rising with conviction. "She is a blessing, a gift from the stars. She is the one who will unite our people, the one who will bring peace and prosperity to our land." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the elders. "And I care for her," he admitted, his voice softening. "I see a future with her, a future where we rule together side by side, bringing healing and unity to our tribe." The elders shifted uncomfortably, their expressions unchanged. Elder Omar, his brow furrowed, spoke first. "We respect your feelings, Sheikh Tarek," he said, his voice measured. "But we cannot ignore the rumors, the fear that has gripped our people. We must consider the well-being of our tribe above all else." "The rumors are lies," Tarek countered, his voice laced with frustration. "They are spread by a man fueled by greed and resentment. Abdul lost Zara at the auction, and he seeks revenge. He poisons the hearts of our people with his falsehoods." "Even if that were true," Elder Hassan interjected, his voice sharp, "the princess offers a secure future, a strong alliance. It is a far less risky path, a path that guarantees the prosperity of our tribe." "Risk?" Tarek questioned, his voice rising. "Is love a risk? Is hope a risk? Is unity a risk? These are not risks, elders. These are the foundations of a strong and prosperous tribe, and Zara embodies all of these qualities." The elders remained unconvinced, their faces etched with doubt. They saw the logic in their arguments, the practicality of their concerns. They could not see past the fear that Abdul had instilled in their hearts. Tarek, seeing the unwavering resolve in their eyes, felt a wave of despair wash over him. He had pleaded his case, he had spoken from the heart, but they remained unmoved. He realized that he was alone in his belief, alone in his love for Zara. He turned and walked out of the council tent, his shoulders slumped, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. Zara, hidden in the shadows, watched him leave. She had heard everything, every word of his impassioned defense, every declaration of his love. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. He had fought for her. He had believed in her, even when everyone else had turned against her. But it wasn't enough. She felt a profound sense of isolation, a loneliness that cut deeper than any physical pain. She was alone, surrounded by people who feared her, who saw her as a curse, a bringer of misfortune. The star on her forehead, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a burden, a mark of isolation. She turned and walked away, her heart heavy, her future uncertain. Zara felt a knot of fear tightening in her stomach. The whispers and fearful glances followed her everywhere. Even the children who had once shyly offered her wildflowers now scurried away at her approach. The weight of Abdul's lies pressed down on her, suffocating her spirit. She knew she couldn't simply wait for the rumors to disappear. She had to act, to uncover the truth behind Abdul's malicious campaign. She began to spend her days among the other slaves who worked in the encampment, performing menial tasks like mending tents and preparing food. She spoke little, listening intently to their hushed conversations, hoping to glean some information about Abdul. At first, they were wary of her, their fear fueled by the same rumors that plagued the rest of the tribe. But Zara's gentle, Nature and quiet strength slowly began to chip away at their apprehension. One evening, as they sat around a small fire, sharing a meager meal of dried dates and flatbread, Zara overheard a hushed conversation between two older women. They spoke of Abdul in low tones, their voices laced with fear. "He is a cruel man," one woman whispered, her eyes darting nervously around. "He takes pleasure in inflicting pain." "I heard he works for the rival tribe," the other woman added, her voice barely audible. "He does their dirty work, spreading dissent and sowing chaos." Zara's ears perked up. The rival tribe? Could Abdul's actions be part of a larger scheme, a plot to destabilize Tariq's tribe? She listened intently, hoping to learn more. "They say he was responsible for the raid on the healer's village," the first woman continued, her voice trembling. "The one with the girl who had the mark." Zara froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The healer's village. The girl with the mark? Could they be talking about her village? About her? She felt a cold dread spreading through her veins. "They say he slaughtered everyone," the second woman whispered, her eyes wide with horror. "Men, women, children, no one was spared." Zara's breath caught in her throat. She remembered the day of the raid. The screams, the chaos, the blood staining the sand. She had been gathering herbs in the nearby canyons, spared from the massacre only by chance. She had always believed it was a random act of violence, a senseless tragedy. But now she began to suspect that it was more than that it was a targeted attack, orchestrated by Abdul, perhaps on the orders of the rival tribe. She listened as the women continued their whispered conversation, piecing together fragments of information, whispers of Abdul's brutality, his connections to the rival tribe, his fear of the prophecy, and his hatred for the girl with the star. A chilling realization began to dawn on Zara. Abdul hadn't just spread rumors about her out of spite. He had a deeper, more sinister motive. He had tried to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled, to silence the woman with the star of dusk, before she could unite the tribes. And he had been responsible for the destruction of her village, the massacre of her family. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, revealing a dark and terrifying truth. Tariq, despite the council's disapproval, refused to abandon his belief in Zara. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that there was more to the rumors than met the eye. He trusted his instincts, the same instincts that had guided him as a leader for so many years. He decided to conduct his own investigation, seeking answers outside the confines of the council's fear and prejudice. He sought out the tribe's elders, the keepers of ancient stories and forgotten lore. He listened patiently as they recounted tales of past prophecies, of women marked by celestial signs, of tribes united by destiny. He learned of a prophecy older than any he had heard before that spoke of a woman with a star on her forehead, a woman who would bridge the divides between warring tribes and bring peace to the land. The prophecy spoke not of a curse, but of a blessing, a gift from the stars. He also sought out the tribe's storytellers, the weavers of words and keepers of history. He listened as they recounted tales of past conflicts, of alliances forged and broken, of the rival tribe's long-standing desire to dominate the region. He learned of their fear of the prophecy, their apprehension about a unified tribe that could challenge their power. He began to see a pattern, a connection between the rival tribe's ambitions and the sudden surge of rumors against Zara. He remembered Abdul's shifty eyes, his forced smile, the way he had deliberately hidden Zara's birthmark at the auction. He had dismissed it as mere greed at the time, but now it seemed like something more, a deliberate act of sabotage. Could Abdul be working for the rival tribe, spreading rumors to undermine Zara's credibility and prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled? The more he learned, the more convinced he became that something sinister was at play. He realized that the prophecy was not just about Zara, it was about the future of his tribe, the destiny of his people. He knew he couldn't rely on the council, blinded as they were by fear and prejudice. He had to uncover the truth himself, to protect Zara and to secure the future of his tribe. He resolved to continue his investigation, to delve deeper into the whispers and rumors, to find the evidence he needed to expose the truth and clear Zara's name. He knew it would be a dangerous path, but he was determined to follow it, for Zara, for his tribe, and for the prophecy he believed in with all his heart. Zara's heart pounded against her ribs as she approached Abdul's tent. The desert wind whipped around her, tugging at the edges of her simple robe. She knew she was taking a risk, a dangerous gamble, but she couldn't stay silent any longer. She had to know the truth no matter the cost. Abdul sat cross-legged inside his tent, counting coins. He looked up as Zara entered, a sneer twisting his lips. "Well, well," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Look who it is, the cursed bride." Zara stood tall, her gaze unwavering. "I want to know about my village," she said, her voice clear and steady. "About the raid." Abdul chuckled, a cruel, mocking sound. "What about it?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with malice. "A little misfortune, a touch of bad luck. It happens." "It was more than bad luck," Zara countered, her voice rising. "It was a massacre, and you were involved." Abdul's smile faltered, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "You know nothing," he hissed, his voice laced with anger. "I know you work for the rival tribe," Zara said, her gaze piercing his. "I know you spread the rumors about me, about the curse." Abdul's eyes widened, his fear now palpable. He tried to maintain his composure, but his hands trembled slightly. "Lies," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "All lies." "Why?" Zara pressed, her voice filled with anguish. "Why did you do it? Why did you destroy my village?" Abdul hesitated, his gaze darting around the tent as if searching for an escape. "It was necessary," he stammered. They feared the prophecy." "The prophecy?" Zara questioned, her voice laced with confusion. "What did the prophecy have to do with my village?" "The star," Abdul muttered, his voice barely audible. "They feared the star." He looked up at Zara, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resentment. They said the girl with the star, she had to be silenced." Zara's mind reeled. The rival tribe had feared the prophecy that spoke of her, of the woman with the star of dusk. They had ordered the destruction of her village, the massacre of her family, to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. The truth, brutal and devastating, hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her forehead, covering the star that had once been a source of pride, now a symbol of her family's tragic fate. Abdul watched her, his fear giving way to a twisted sense of satisfaction. He had revealed the truth, the devastating truth that would break her spirit. He had finally gotten his revenge. Zara, though shaken to her core, refused to let grief consume her. She straightened, her gaze hardening. She had learned the truth, the terrible truth, and now she knew what she had to do. She would fight back. She would expose Abdul and the rival tribe's treachery. She would reclaim her star, the symbol of her family's legacy, and fulfill the prophecy they had tried so hard to prevent. She turned and walked out of the tent, her heart heavy with grief, but her spirit filled with a newfound resolve. The desert wind whipped around her, no longer a symbol of fear and isolation, but a symbol of strength and defiance. She was Zara, the woman with the star of dusk, and she would not be silenced. Tarek sat alone in his tent, the firelight casting flickering shadows on the walls. He held a small, smooth stone in his hand, a gift from Zara, a reminder of her strength and resilience. He thought about the stories he had heard from the elders and storytellers, the whispers of ancient prophecies and tribal rivalries. He thought about Abdul's shifty eyes, his deliberate attempts to hide Zara's birthmark, his malicious rumors. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, forming a clear and disturbing picture. The rival tribe, led by the ambitious and ruthless Sheikh Qasim, had long feared the prophecy of a united tribe. A unified tribe, led by a strong leader, like Tarek, would pose a direct threat to their power and influence. They had much to lose if the prophecy were to be fulfilled, and Abdul, it seemed, was their pawn, their instrument of disruption. Tarek realized that Abdul's actions were not simply motivated by greed and resentment. He was acting on orders, carrying out a carefully orchestrated plan to destabilize Tarek's tribe and prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. He had spread rumors about Zara, painting her as a cursed bringer of misfortune, to sow fear and distrust among the tribespeople. He had hoped to turn them against her, to force Tarek to reject her and choose the safer path, the alliance with Princess Amara. But why the raid on Zara's village? Why the massacre of her family? Tarek closed his eyes, trying to piece together the remaining fragments of the puzzle. The elders had spoken of a prophecy, an ancient prophecy that spoke of a woman with a star on her forehead, a woman who would unite the tribes. Could Zara's village have been targeted because of her, because of the star on her forehead? Could the rival tribe have feared her power, her potential to fulfill the prophecy, even as a child? The thought sent a chill down Tarek's spine. He realized that Zara was not just a symbol of unity, she was a target, a threat to the rival tribe's ambitions. And Abdul, their loyal servant, had been tasked with silencing her, with preventing her from fulfilling her destiny. Tarek knew he had to act, to expose Abdul and Sheikh Qasim's treachery before it was too late. He had to protect Zara, to clear her name, and to unite his tribe against the looming threat. He began to formulate a plan that would require courage, cunning, and the unwavering support of those who still believed in him, those who still believed in the prophecy. He would gather evidence, he would expose Abdul's lies, and he would confront Sheikh Qasim, revealing his treachery to the world. He would fight for Zara, for his tribe, and for the future he believed in, a future of unity, peace, and prosperity. The firelight flickered, casting dancing shadows on the tent walls, illuminating the determined glint in Tarek's eyes. He was ready to fight, ready to risk everything to protect the woman he loved and fulfill the prophecy that held the key to his tribe's destiny. Zara stumbled into Tarek's tent, her face pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. She clutched a small, faded piece of cloth in her hand, the last remnant of the veil she had worn for so long. Tarek, seeing her distress, rose to his feet, his concern evident in his eyes. "Zara," he said softly, "what is it? What's wrong?" Zara took a deep breath, struggling to compose herself. I spoke with Abdul," she stammered, her voice trembling. He told me the truth." Tarek's brow furrowed. "The truth about what?" he asked, his voice gentle. "About my village," Zara whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "About the raid." She held out the faded cloth, her hand shaking. This was my mother's. I found it after—" Her voice trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Tarek gently took the cloth from her, his gaze fixed on the intricate embroidery. He recognized the pattern, a pattern unique to Zara's village. He had seen similar cloths adorning the tents of the healers who had once traveled through his lands. He told me it wasn't a random raid," Zara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. It was an order from Sheikh Qasim." Tarek's grip tightened on the cloth, his jaw clenching. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed, hearing it from Zara's own lips, filled him with a cold rage. They feared the prophecy, Zara sobbed, her body shaking with grief. They feared the star. She touched her forehead, her fingers tracing the outline of the silver mark. They said I had to be silenced. Silenced? Tarek repeated, his voice low and dangerous. Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, they killed everyone," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "My grandmother, my parents, everyone. Because of me, because of this mark." Tarek pulled her into his arms, holding her close, his heart aching for her pain. He had suspected the rival tribes' involvement, but he hadn't realized the extent of their cruelty, the depth of their fear. He had thought they were simply trying to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled, but now he understood that they had been trying to eliminate Zara, to erase the very symbol of unity they so desperately feared. Zara clung to him, her body trembling, her sobs echoing through the tent. She had carried the burden of her family's death for so long, the weight of their loss crushing her spirit. But now, speaking the truth, sharing her pain with Tarek, she felt a small measure of relief, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Tarek held her tightly, his own emotions swirling within him. He felt a surge of protective fury, a burning desire to avenge Zara's family, to bring justice to those who had perpetrated this horrific act. He stroked her hair, whispering words of comfort and reassurance. He would protect her, he vowed. He would expose the truth and bring those responsible to justice. He would fight for her family, for the future they had tried to steal. The revelation of Zara's past had confirmed his suspicions, solidified his resolve. He knew what he had to do. He would not rest until the truth was revealed, until justice was served, until Zara's star shone brightly, a beacon of hope for all the tribes, a testament to the resilience of the woman he loved. Tarek stood before the assembled tribes, his voice ringing out across the desert. The tribespeople, their faces etched with curiosity and apprehension, watched him intently. Beside him stood Zara, her head held high, the silver star on her forehead gleaming in the sunlight. She no longer hid her mark, no longer cowered in the face of fear and prejudice. She stood tall, a symbol of resilience and hope. Tarek gestured towards a bound and gagged Abdul, who stood before them, his face pale, his eyes darting nervously around the crowd. "This man," Tarek declared, his voice filled with righteous anger, "has deceived us. He has poisoned our hearts with lies and spread fear among our people." He recounted the events of the auction, how Abdul had deliberately hidden Zara's birthmark, how he had mocked her and called her ugly, all in an attempt to drive down her price. He explained how Abdul had spread rumors about Zara, painting her as a cursed bringer of misfortune, to undermine her credibility and turn the tribes against her. He then turned to Zara, his gaze softening. "This woman," he said, his voice filled with admiration, "is not a curse. She is a blessing. She is the woman from the prophecy, the woman with the star of dusk, the woman who will unite our tribes." He recounted Zara's story, the story of her family's massacre, the truth about the rival tribes' fear of the prophecy, and Abdul's role in their tragic fate. He removed the gag from Abdul's mouth, his gaze hard. "Tell them the truth," Tarek commanded. Abdul, his voice trembling, confessed. He admitted to spreading the rumors, to working for Sheikh Qasim, the rival leader who feared the prophecy of unification. He admitted to hiding Zara's birthmark at the auction, to deliberately portraying her as undesirable, to preventing Tarek from recognizing her as the woman from his dream. He confessed to everything, his words a desperate plea for mercy. A wave of shock and anger rippled through the crowd. The tribespeople who had once feared Zara now looked at her with sympathy and respect. They had been deceived, manipulated by a man driven by greed and fear. They had allowed themselves to be swayed by lies, to turn against a woman who had only offered them healing and hope. Tariq then revealed Sheikh Qasim's plot to prevent unification, his fear of a strong, united tribe that could challenge his power. He spoke of the rival tribe's long-standing ambition to dominate the region, their willingness to use any means necessary to achieve their goals. He exposed their treachery, their cruelty, their disregard for human life. The tribespeople were outraged. They had been betrayed, not just by Abdul, but by a rival leader who sought to divide and conquer them. They realized that their true enemy was not Zara, the woman with the Star of Dusk, but Sheikh Qasim and his thirst for power. They had been blinded by fear, manipulated by lies, but now the truth was revealed, and they were ready to fight for their future, for their unity, for the prophecy that promised peace and prosperity. Tariq, his voice ringing with conviction, called for unity among the tribes. He called for an end to the fear and prejudice that had divided them for so long. He called for a new beginning, a future where they would stand together, united under the banner of the Star of Dusk, the symbol of hope and healing that shone brightly on Zara's forehead. The tribespeople roared their approval, their voices echoing across the desert, a testament to their newfound resolve, their unwavering belief in the woman who had once been mocked as the ugly bride, but who now stood before them, a symbol of their shared destiny. The desert air, once thick with tension and suspicion, now vibrated with a newfound sense of unity. Tariq, his voice clear and strong, addressed the assembled tribes. He spoke of Zara's courage, her resilience in the face of fear and prejudice. He told them of her family's tragic fate, their lives stolen by a rival leader who feared the prophecy, who feared the woman with the Star of Dusk. He spoke of Abdul's treachery, his role in spreading lies and sowing discord among the tribes. He spoke of the true meaning of the prophecy, not as a curse or a burden, but as a promise of hope, a symbol of unity, a path towards a brighter future. The star on Zara's forehead, Tariq declared, his hand gesturing towards her, is not a mark of misfortune. It is a beacon of light, a symbol of healing, a testament to the strength and resilience of our people. He spoke of unity, of the need to put aside their differences, to bridge the divides that had separated them for so long. He spoke of love, of the power of compassion and understanding to heal old wounds and forge new bonds. He spoke of acceptance, of embracing diversity, of celebrating the unique gifts and talents of each individual. Zara, standing beside Tariq, felt a warmth spread through her chest. His words resonated with her, echoing the deepest desires of her heart. She looked out at the assembled tribes, their faces now softened, their eyes filled with a mixture of remorse and hope. She saw a glimmer of understanding, a spark of unity igniting in their hearts. She stepped forward, her gaze steady, her voice clear. "I am Zara," she said, "the woman with the Star of Dusk. I am a healer, and I offer my skills to all who need them." She walked among the tribespeople, her hands outstretched, her touch gentle and reassuring. She tended to the sick and injured, offering healing balms and soothing words. She treated a young mother suffering from a persistent cough, a wizened elder with aching joints, a child with a fevered brow. She used her knowledge of herbs and her innate healing abilities to ease their suffering, to bring comfort and relief. She moved from tent to tent, from tribe to tribe, her presence a bridge between them. She spoke to them in their own languages, learning their customs, understanding their fears. She listened to their stories, their hopes, their dreams for a better future. As she worked, the tribe's people began to see her not as a stranger, not as a symbol, but as one of their own, a healer, a caregiver, a woman with a kind heart and a gentle touch. They saw the truth in Tarek's words, the true meaning of the prophecy, the promise of unity and healing that Zara represented. The star on her forehead, once a source of fear and suspicion, now shone brightly, a beacon of hope for all the tribes. Under a sky strewn with 1,000,000 stars, the tribes gathered. They came from far and wide, their differences forgotten, their hearts united by a shared sense of hope. Zara, no longer hidden beneath a soot-stained cloth, stood tall and proud. The silver star on her forehead, once a mark of fear and isolation, now shimmered brightly, a beacon of hope for all. It was no longer a curse, but a badge of honor, a symbol of their newfound unity. Tarek stood beside her, his hand clasped firmly in hers. He looked out at the assembled tribes, his heart filled with gratitude and love. He had found the woman from his dreams, the woman who had brought healing and unity to his people. He had fought for her, he had believed in her, and now his faith was rewarded. The elders, their faces etched with wisdom and acceptance, stepped forward. They placed a garland of fragrant desert flowers around Zara's neck, a symbol of their respect and admiration. They spoke of her courage, her compassion, her unwavering commitment to healing and unity. "We were wrong to fear you, Zara," Elder Omar admitted, his voice filled with humility. "We allowed ourselves to be deceived by lies, to be blinded by fear. But now we see the truth. We see the light that shines within you, the light that will guide us towards a brighter future." The tribespeople cheered, their voices echoing across the desert. They had embraced Zara, the woman with the star of dusk, as their symbol of hope and healing. They had accepted her, not just as a healer, but as a leader, a bridge between their divided tribes. A hush fell over the crowd as Tarek and Zara exchanged vows, their voices soft but firm. They spoke of love, of respect, of a shared commitment to unity and peace. They pledged to rule together, side by side, guiding their people towards a brighter future. Their union was not just a marriage, but a symbol of the tribe's newfound unity, a testament to their love and their shared destiny. The ceremony concluded with a joyous celebration, a feast of roasted meats, sweet dates, and fragrant spices. Music filled the air, the rhythmic beat of drums mingling with the melodious strains of stringed instruments. The tribespeople danced and sang, their hearts filled with joy and gratitude. They had found their unity, they had found their hope, and they had found their future in the woman with the star of dusk. Tarek and Zara, hand in hand, watched their people celebrate. They had overcome fear and prejudice. They had exposed treachery and deceit, and they had fulfilled the prophecy that had brought them together. They ruled wisely and justly, their decisions guided by compassion and wisdom. They brought peace and prosperity to the land, their reign marked by unity, healing, and a deep respect for the traditions of their people. Zara's star shone brightly, a beacon of hope for all, a symbol of the woman who had once been mocked as the ugly bride, but who now reigned as a beloved queen, her heart filled with love for her husband, her people, and the land they called home. The prophecy was fulfilled, and the desert bloomed, a testament to the power of unity, the strength of love, and the enduring light of the Star of Dusk.